continuing to ask the clerk to perform that reading at this time.
An ordinance authorizing and approving a network cooperation and service agreement and related agreements with Google Fiber Missouri LLC.
Mr. Cole, as I understand, the leader of the team from our staff that brought this before us, I want to thank you on behalf of the Board of Aldermen. Would you care to elaborate on this, sir?
Absolutely. Mayor Board of Aldermen, it's my pleasure to present this ordinance to you this evening for your consideration. In his opening statements, Mr. Sharman did a pretty good job of acclimating us to the technology, if you will, as to what this project really consists of. But over the past few months, city staff has negotiated a network cooperation and service agreement with Google Fiber Missouri, also known as Google. The agreement, including a right-of-way agreement and structure attachment and conduit occupancy agreement, establishes the terms or rules by which Google will install, maintain, and operate a 1 gigabit fiber network system in Raytown, and potentially a wireless network following the completion of the fiber network. In absolute layman's terms, this means, as Mr. Sharman alluded to, our residents will have the opportunity to take advantage of what I believe is fastest in the world internet service. The agreements provide Google similar rights to deploy its fiber network in Raytown as they have been afforded in their agreements with cities of Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, Olathe, Kansas, Austin, Texas, and Provo, Utah. City staff believes that Raytown agreements provide a greater degree of detail than a number of other area communities in regard to submittal requirements of right-of-way usage, Google's responsibility to properly install and maintain its technical assets, and Google's responsibility to relocate technical assets as the result of city infrastructure projects. Again, as Mr. Sharman suggested earlier, Raytown will be only the second community in the state of Missouri with access to this current network with an agreement with Google, providing that it passes through both readings here. In addition, we will be one of only, by my count, fewer than 7 communities in the nation with an agreement with Google on this state-of-the-art technology. The agreements are summarized as such. The Network Cooperation and Service Agreement, we can also term this the Master Agreement, if you will, provides Google the right to design, construct, and install its network here in Raytown. Google may also design, construct, and install a Wi-Fi network in Raytown. Google will identify fiber hoods in which the network will be deployed to single-family residences in Raytown, similar to what they've done in other jurisdictions. In plain English, basically what the fiber hood concept means is, as residents of a particular neighborhood or particular section of town subscribe to the service, that service is more likely to go to that particular point of town. Google will provide a 1 gigabit capable broadband service to a limited number of public facilities. Again, taking that back to the concept of fiber hoods, they build their infrastructure where they're getting their customers from. Their dominant infrastructure wherever their customers are from. Therefore, if, as it relates to city services and city public facilities, if the residents around the City Hall subscribe to the fiber, this becomes a fiber hood, therefore City Hall can take advantage of that service. The same goes with fire district, school district, all that as well. If Google deploys a Wi-Fi network in Raytown, Google will also provide public Wi-Fi access through its Wi-Fi network within certain designated areas for a period of up to 10 years to the city. All construction performed by Google must be in conformance with applicable regulatory and permitting requirements, including requirements set forth in the right-of-way agreement and the attachment agreement. Exhibit A, which follows the master agreement or the structure agreement, is the right-of-way agreement. This document acknowledges that Google will pay the city a 5% franchise fee on gross revenues generated within Raytown by virtue of the statewide video franchise. This is very similar to what the agreements that the city utilizes in regard to AT&T's telephone and television service, as well as Comcast services here in town. The document also gives Google the non-exclusive right to construct, maintain, extend, and operate its facilities or technical assets within the public right-of-way. Again, very similar to the other technical companies, or telecommunication companies that operate within Raytown. Google is required to comply with all applicable laws and obtain all necessary governmental approvals before installing its facilities in the right-of-way. Google's use of the right-of-way is subject and subordinate to the reasonable public health, safety, and welfare requirements and regulations of the city of Raytown. Google will be required to repair damage to the right-of-way caused by its activities in the right-of-way, and if requested by the city to accommodate a public improvement project, will be required to remove and relocate its facilities within the right-of-way at no cost to the city. Google will also be required to indemnify the city from claims of damages unless resulting from the city's negligence. Google will also be required to maintain insurance so long as the agreement is in effect. The agreement remains in effect so long as Google is providing services in Raytown. Exhibit B before you and the final agreement is a structure attachment and conduit occupancy agreement. It provides Google the right to install its equipment and facilities on certain city above-ground buildings and facilities, also known as structures throughout the document, and within certain existing city underground conduit lines, or conduit, all of which to be agreed upon by the city. Google will be required to submit all necessary applications, obtain all necessary permits to locate and attach its equipment and facilities on or within city structures and or conduit, and comply with all applicable laws on the installation and maintenance of its facilities and equipment attached to or installed within city structures or conduit. Google will pay to upsize any city structure or conduit necessary to accommodate its equipment and facilities. Google will pay to install and maintain its equipment and facilities, and the city will pay to maintain its structures and conduit. The agreement is effective for 10 years with the opportunity to renew unless Google is no longer providing services in Raytown. Again, Google Fiber will offer the citizens of Raytown an internet connection speed 100 times faster than current average broadband compared to crystal clear high definition television. As in other areas, Google will build its network based on the fiber grid concept that I alluded to. With that, I will answer any other questions. Additionally, Karen Hook from Google California is here this evening, as well as Chase Simmons, their legal counsel.
Ms. Belson.
First, I want to thank the city team for bringing this to Raytown. I think it's a great idea, but I would like some explanation again on the public facilities and the structures. Are they providing city with the fiber, the Google, or is that something we're paying for, or how does that work?
As far as like for example, this building?
Right.
This building would be free, providing that we are near or a component of a fiber hood within the area. So, in other words, they're not going to put their network where they don't have customers. Much of their concept that has been rolled out is really based on pre-sale of that service product.
And so if by one of the schools, if they had their fiber hood there, then that school would be able to obtain those services free?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. All right. Want to make sure of that. All right, thank you.
And again, the Google folks and their legal counsel don't have a presentation this evening, but they're more than happy to answer any current questions about the particular product.
Mr. Agee.
I have two questions. First of all, in the past, when we've had companies that needed to do street cuts, we have in the long past, 10 years ago, a problem with some companies that will go in and do a street cut right after we overlay it. I don't know what their policy is, but I would like to have, at least our Public Works Department have an answer to that. Because I do remember when we did Raytown Road, it was almost like 6 months and we were cutting it up again. Is there any kind of a process by which we communicate with the company so they can make long-term plans, or we can to avoid that?
Mr. Knoll is anxious to answer your question.
We can always communicate with them the areas that we have just overlay and what we plan on doing in the coming years. We can provide them with a plan. However, there still may be areas that we overlaid, say, 2 years ago before they began working in Raytown that they will have to cut into. That's where our right-of-way ordinance comes into effect. And there's an actual degradation fee from that right-of-way ordinance is higher when they do cut into those roadways that have been recently overlaid. So, and we'll track all those utility cuts basically via that right-of-way ordinance, trying to discourage cutting into streets, but where it's not, where they can avoid those areas, that's where the degradation fee comes into have an impact.
Thank you, and I do appreciate that. I think it's important for Public Works Department to try to track that in advance the very best they can. Secondly, has to do with signing up for fiber hoods. fiber hood that Google will go around to house, and you sign up by paying $10, and then once they have so many people who pay their $10 to get the fiber hood. Is that correct?
I would yield that
I'll yield the specifics to Karen Uber from Google. If Karen, you can come to the podium and address the question.
Welcome, Carol, and thanks for bringing Google with you.
Hi, I'm Karen Uke. I work on business development on Google Fiber. To answer your question, yes, we are building on a demand model. For every fiber hood that will work closely with the city on identifying these fiber hoods, they're generally about 800 households per fiber hood. And for every fiber hood, we'll set an appropriate threshold above which, once a threshold is hit, then we will bring, as Tom mentioned before, a public site to that particular fiber hood. To address your question, once we are ready for the pre-registration process, we will, again, work closely with the city on this. And residents can express interest by putting a $10 deposit down. And this is where the threshold comment I just made comes into play. If a certain number of residents sign up for that particular fiber hood by putting the $10 registration fee down, then we will commit to building in that particular fiber hood.
Thank you.
Sorry, one thing to add is following that pre-registration process, once we've committed to building in that area, that's when the residents can also sign up for the various plans. We have 3 plans that we offer residents for Google Fiber. One is a free plan, up to 7 years free with an initial installation of $300. That can be spread out over the course of 1 year, $25 a month. And that would give you basic internet for up to 7 years completely free. After that initial installation, the $300 installation cost. The second offering is a 1 gig internet speed. 1 gig internet speed, and that's $70 a month. And the final one is 1 gig internet plus a TV plan with quite a lot of HD TV channels for $120 a month.
Thank you. First of all, I'm very excited about it. My son's more excited than me. I was just trying to look at the time frame when you would be here. I know some cable companies like mine, every time it goes up, I have to call them up and sign up for another year plan to bring it back down. I don't want to get too long of a plan and to miss out on this, so you have any time frame possible.
I wish I had a specific time frame. We're working as quickly as we can. We are, as you know, pending the council approval on the 21st, we'll be working closely with the city on the planning process with our engineering team. So you can expect to see our build-out team assessing the utility poles and working on the planning process. That will take a few months, and post the planning process, we'll be able to provide more guidance as to the schedule and timing.
Thank you.
Questions? Mr. Buster.
I do have one. We have franchise fees on most utilities that we have, in fact, all of them. Some of them conserving more than others because they're on vital services such as gas and electricity. This certainly would not be one of those, but I noticed that you will be paying the city a 5% franchise fee. Is that correct in the agreement? That would be passed on to the customer. Is that correct?
The 5% franchise fee is to the city.
That you would be paying us, but that fee actually is passed on to the customer, is it not?
Well, we have the set plans and the amounts that we charge per plan. As I mentioned, the 3 plans, the $300, that's for free, and then the $70 per month or the $120 per month plan. So those are the rates that we will charge the customer.
It would not be passed.
So there will not be an additional fee. That is the price we're
Very
charging.
good, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? This is the first reading. Ms. Nelson.
I had a question, and I don't know who might be able to answer it, but it does say on the network design and construction about fiber being attached to buildings or aerial structures. Is that the poles, the light poles, or what type of aerial structures?
Those would be utility poles. So in Raytown's case, this would be the KCP&L poles.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Raise your hand.
Just the last question, so there would be no above ground components that would be installed like on private property if someone's home?
Not on someone's home. There will be the utility poles that would be in the right of way.
Thank you.
And those would all be existing utility poles. This project doesn't include the creation or addition of new utility poles throughout the town.
Very good. Again, this is the first reading, so unless there's further discussion. Mr. Sharma, anything to add, sir?
I will just add, Mayor, that it is a truly team effort. The first time that I met, along with my staff members, with the Google in February 6th of this year. And the team involved from Development and Public Affairs Department, Public Works Department, City Administration, Economic Development, Public Information Officer, city's attorneys, number of phone calls, back and forth, revisions, conference call. But the first time when I met with the Google representative, I told them, this is one of the best cities that you're going to work for in terms of how quickly we will process the information and how effectively we'll be responding to all inquiries back and forth. Less than 3 months, this deal is on your table. And I can tell you, talking to the folks around the metro area, they just wish they could have beat us. And I'm so proud of my team here in Raytown and everybody's involvement and quick response, whether it's called from California or from their local representative or local legal counsel. We worked diligently, swiftly, and got it to you as quickly as we can possibly can.
Mr. Sharma, again, thank you. I've said many times, I'm proud that this city sits at the table with many of our other cities in the metropolitan area. I've taken great joy in the last couple of days in celebrating a number of mayors calling me and asking me how we're doing that. And I think it's absolutely awesome. You guys are out front again. That's where we'd like you to have us. City of Raytown people making great strides. We are out front on this item. And thank you, staff, for bringing this forward to the second reading on May 21st. Thank you.
Thank you.